All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back live at Drew's house. Hope everybody's doing okay out there, staying healthy as we fly through January. Really flying through January. My goodness, 2021, flying already. Big day for the UFC today. Big week for the UFC. It's really been the UFC has really dominated the pandemic in a lot of ways. It was one of the first sports to come back, and I've been meaning to do an interview like this for a while. I'm going to be bringing right now Joe Lauzon, a local fighter, UFC fighter. For those of you who've seen it, I'm sure you have. It's everywhere now. This is the mixed martial arts, which has taken the world by storm here over the last decade. And let's bring in Joe right now. Joe, how are you, man?
I'm good. How's it going today?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. I've been meaning to do this interview for a long time because the UFC, when the sport stopped, was one of the first sports in the pandemic to kind of keep trucking along. And to be honest with you, my cousin got me involved with it. He was like, I think you should check it out. I think you'd appreciate it. And I'm still kind of new to the game, but I got to tell you, the presentation was great. I was hooked, and I've kind of been a fan ever since. It's exciting.
It all comes down from the top. Dana White, he does a great job. They have a really good production team. They really take control of the branding. I think that was a big reason why they had a lot of trouble in the past on getting, TV deals and like that, because the UFC did not want to give up any kind of control over, the production side of things. And, but they crush it. They knock it out of the park.
How, we now have these fights airing on ABC, which is, I think that's a big deal. I mean, it's network for the first time for you guys. I know everybody who's ever probably fought in the UFC takes a little bit of pride in seeing that kind of go to that level. This isn't like the 1970s where the networks, everything anymore, but it's still a big deal. And you must be pretty proud about that.
It's awesome. There was a Fox deal from before, so it's not the first network deal, but the first time we're on ABC is going to be today. It's awesome. It's totally mainstream. It went from, you had to basically try and find tapes online and, try and order, tapes off eBay. And I got this new event, let's go watch, to now it's a, pay-per-view, and then being blacklisted in some states, to now it's just completely mainstream. It's it's all over the place. It's great.
I want to talk some general stuff in a little bit, but I'd be remiss to ask you, a guy very well, Calvin Kattar, on this bill today. Big fight for him. Another local guy, I think Methuen. You guys have trained together. What do we got to know about him? What's your take on this fight tonight?
Calvin is a banger. Right. So, Calvin boxed since he was a little kid. I unfortunately, because of COVID, I haven't been able to train with Calvin all that much in say the last year or so. But Calvin, he does all the things right. He works hard at the gym. He puts in the time wrestling, grappling. He's been boxing since he was a little kid. So he's got a crazy right hand. He's very accurate, good volume. It's gonna be an awesome fight. I do not think it goes to decision. I think either Calvin puts Max to sleep or Max Holloway puts Calvin to sleep. I don't think either guy is gonna go out and fight a safe, cautious fight. I think they're gonna go out and throw leather.
What do you know about Holloway?
So Max has been around for a long time. He started at 155 as a lightweight. He's down to 145 now, so he's come down a weight class. So he's very big. He's very long for the weight class. Great striking. Completely like a volume pressure fighter. Right? He's very, very long. Very, very complex combinations. Some guys throw a couple things basic over and over and over. Max mixes things up tremendously. Legs, knees, fists, everything. He puts it all together really well.
Absolutely. And what makes him Calvin the great training partner for you? I mean, you guys both have to agree to be these long-term buddies in the octagon. What makes him the right guy for you and vice versa?
Calvin, he shows up and he works hard. Anyone that shows up consistently, guys that aren't late all the time, guys that are, when they say they're going to be there, they actually show up. Guys that are not just it's not an ego thing. Calvin's not in there just trying to win. He's out there trying to get better, Calvin has better box than me. I have better jiu-jitsu than him. He tries to do jiu-jitsu against me. I try to do boxing against him.
So that makes for the good, hello, kids.
Yes.
That's okay. They can say hello. So that makes you guys a good pair. Interesting. Can I get you to pick a winner, or is that not going to happen?
I think Calvin's going to win. It's a really tough fight. Max has fought, I think, maybe harder competition, but it's going to be a really good fight.
In a second. Again, we're joined by Joe Lauzon here. Joining us now. We got a big day for the UFC and a big week ahead. Joe, how old are the kids?
So Jake is 3 and he's obsessed with cars and just smashing things. It would have been nonstop in the background. And Joey is 7.
All right.
Nonstop anarchy.
You get your old. Does that mean you have to get to the gym early in the morning?
Yeah. So usually I get up at like 4:30 and I leave at 5 to be there for 6. And I left up skill strength up in Chelmsford. And I get my work. I'm done by like 7:45, 8 o'clock, and I get home.
All right, good. So that wraps up our talk for today. So we got you got Calvin winning this thing today. Very, very interesting.
Yep.
All right.
I think it's a tough fight. It could go either way, but I think Calvin gets it done.
Cool. Let's talk about something you just mentioned with the pandemic. I'm wondering what kind of restrictions. I know gyms have been hit hard through all this. You have your own gym. Tell me a little something about that. And tell me what it's been like through this pandemic.
So it kind of sucks for us because they're saying that, a lot of people that are having trouble with COVID are people that are not in good health, people that have other, health issues, whether being overweight or asthma and all this other stuff. Right. But the people that are going to gyms are generally pretty healthy, right? If you're very sickly, you're probably not going to a gym, right? So it's like, it's unfortunate for us because we have this population of people that are very, very healthy. We've had a bunch of people that have been exposed to COVID, that have tested positive for COVID. No one has anything more than like sniffles and maybe some body aches for a day or so. And everyone in my gym that has, been exposed to it have crushed it and been completely fine. Yet, they're saying that they don't want gyms to be open. We're at much less capacity. I think we're at 25% capacity right now. So definitely it changes things, for us quite a bit. We're used to, typically on like a Saturday morning, all the best fighters in New England all come down to my gym, right? So there might be 40, 50, 60 guys there on a typical Saturday morning from all these different gyms, from, probably 15, 20 different gyms. And they all come together and we all get together and train and we all beat each other up. We all help each other get ready for fights. And then we go off on our own ways. But right now it's like we're supposed to have cohorts of 10. So basically for all my members at my gym, they're all in groups of 10 and they train with those same 10 people every single class. So the idea is that like if someone is in the cohort test positive and, exposed to the others, you're only exposing the 10 people because you don't know for a few days sometimes. So if you train with a whole bunch of different groups, you could train with easily 100 different people in the course of a week. And then now you've exposed 100 different people and now they all have to quarantine for 14 days. It's kind of a nightmare. So, but with the cohorts, if we have someone that's positive, it's just they're only exposing those 10, which keeps it much more manageable. It's still a pain in the butt for us to try and manage and all that stuff, but we're super happy to be able to train.
And people don't realize, I think, if you're not like a gym rat, like I just get there a few days a week to play basketball in non-pandemic times, and now with that being taken away, like it's a huge void for me. I don't think I realized how much I depended on getting to the gym and just playing ball for a few nights a week. Like people that get into those routines and then have it switched up on them in that way. I mean, that's a big, like, life-changing deal.
Working out is the most underutilized remedy for depression and things like that. Anyone that feels crappy, they're not having a good day, whatever, you go to the gym, get a good workout in, whether it's, it could be anything, whether you like swimming, running, riding a bike, lifting weights, doing jiu-jitsu, boxing, whatever it is. That is like the number one way people kind of deal with anxiety, depression, all these other things. It's way healthier than doing, medications and being on this and that forever. So it's unfortunate, it's just the whole thing sucks.
Your gym, and it just struck me that you said, your place is kind of the place around here when it comes to Massachusetts for UFC fighters to come. What is that like? That must be like such a rewarding experience to have like just the best of the best coming into your place. I mean, I'm sure you're picking the brains of people, just trying to get strategies, learn from everybody, especially in non-pandemic times. It must just be great to have all that talent come to your place.
Yeah, one of the big things, so my original trainer, Joe Pomfrey, he's my partner at the gym. One of the things he always said, the two big things are always get better and stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So always get better is like, you should never think that you're good enough. You can always get better at something. So you should always be working to get better. And, stand on the shoulders of giants is basically, look to advice for people that have been there, look at advice for people that, can see further than you can see. And, anyone that has more skill, like in anything, I want to be a sponge. I want to steal everything I can from them. I want to learn everything I can. Because like I've done really, really well in the UFC and fighting and things like that, but there are tons of people that have better wrestling than me, better jiu-jitsu, better boxing, better strength and conditioning, like all this other stuff. So we bring it all together. It does make me proud that, everyone wants to come and train with us, but we just have just a good atmosphere. It's just, there's no jerks, there's no egos. Anytime we get someone that's being a little bit of a problem, talk to them a little bit. Hey man, you gotta, tone it down a little bit, or you gotta do this, or we gotta adjust. And if they don't, they just say, hey man, maybe it's not a good fit for you. I don't think you come anymore. And it just keeps everyone in check because, one person just ruins it for the rest of the people. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. So, but we have a really good group.
Again, we're joined here by Joe Lauzon. local UFC fighter. Let's talk about you a little bit because you have had some epic fights over the years. But I first want to ask how do you get into this? Because I watch this and you guys are absolute warriors. It doesn't look like it's a tough way of life. I mean, but like a lot of you guys, I thrive off of it. I wonder, are you one of those guys that like when you just thrive on being in those fights, those tough fights? How did you get into this?
I got into it by accident. So I went to Wentworth in Boston. I have a computer science degree. So I started training when I was in high school, and I started doing jiu-jitsu. And then one of my buddies started fighting, so I started fighting. And then I just kind of kept doing it kind of as a hobby. It was just like it was a good thing. I played a lot of StarCraft, a lot of video games. And then I basically stopped playing StarCraft and started playing more, doing more jiu-jitsu. And that kind of was like a substitute for my time. And I went to school in Boston, and for like the first 2 weeks, I didn't go home and train. And I didn't really immediately understand why, but I was in like the worst mood. I felt so crappy. I felt, like I was just wasn't having a good time at college. Don't drink, not a lot to do, school and classes and whatever. So I started traveling back home, and I started like just while I was in college, I kept on doing like local fights, fighting as a professional, like making some money here and there on weekends. And then it was all by accident. Like I never expected. And then in my senior year, I got a call to fight in the UFC. And at the time it was like, I think I had a job offer for like 50 grand a year, and, cause I was going to finish up my computer science degree in a couple months. And I was working a great co-op, and then the UFC calls me but it was like 3,000 and 3,000. Like it wasn't enough money to go and quit my job. But I did really well in the fight, and I made like 30 grand for the fight. And then I did another fight, and I made a little bit more money. So it just kind of snowballed. I'm like, maybe I should give this a shot. Maybe I should jump in on, with both feet. And I went on the Ultimate Fighter. Things went well. I'm like, okay, I have to do this. I have to give this a shot. Quit my job, started doing this full time. It happened by accident. It wasn't something I set out to do. It's not something I would advise anyone to set out to do. Like, oh, this is what you need to do. This is going to be your career. I think that a lot of people could, the fighting in the UFC is not a career. It's an opportunity, right? So it's a lot of people, if they want to run like a martial arts school, or they want to do this, or they want to do that, targeting being a professional fighter is probably not the number one way that you're going to build your school, but it can help. If you have like that drive and that, that desire to go out and fight and compete and take it to the next level, I think it can definitely help you, but it's generally it's going to help you with your other businesses. It's not like a career. It's not a lifetime thing for the most part.
I hope this is not the most amateur question of all time, but I have to ask it because it's simple, but I think there's a lot there. Like, you trust your skills. You're well trained. I know you have a lot of confidence. Are there moments when you're in the ring, you're looking across, or in the octagon, you're looking across, and you're like, this guy could do some damage. Like, this is a little bit scary.
Not so much like, oh, that guy can do damage, because I know every single person can do damage. I know that I can do damage. I know like that part's not there. But every single time I'm staring across the ring, they're calling out my name, like, oh, why do I do this? This is so stupid. Why am I here? Why did I quit my job? Why did I do this? You know what I mean? And then the second the ref says, okay, fight, it's like you go touch goes like, oh yeah, now because this is really fun. Like, I really enjoy doing this, but like you get those nerves for like, like some people get them, like they can't sleep the night before, they can't sleep for weeks before, like they get really red. I'm not that guy. But for me, it's like I get no nerves until I'm in the cage. I'm waiting to walk out. They start doing introductions. I'm like, oh, I start feeling like I'm just like shrinking down. As soon as they fight, I'm good. But you get a little
in those moments leading up to the fight, all those thoughts are going through your head. Those like, what am I doing here? Every bad thought you could possibly have is there for a few moments.
For a few moments, yeah. But I comment. It doesn't really bother me that much. Like I said, it's so brief because I just know that like, okay, for the last 2 months, 3 months, however long, I've been training for this particular fight. And if you go back, I mean, I've been in the UFC since 2006. I've been training like really, really hard since like 2002. So it's like almost 20 years where like almost like the primary focus of my entire life for almost 20 years now has been being the best fighter I can possibly be, being the best martial artist. Learning the best, way to grapple people and box and wrestle and everything like that. Like I've spent a lot of time, working at this. So I think about that, I know I'm prepared. I know I'm ready. I know there's nothing they're going to do that I haven't seen. And that kind of calms my nerves a little bit.
You're kind of Mr. Excitement too, as far as your style, because I was, just the year I've kind of been a fan, I've done a lot of reading up on the actual fighters. And one thing I found was you're kind of, for those of you who don't know, you get bonuses if I think this is a Dana White thing, but if you're like, not only just win a fight, but if you put on like a show and it's a great fight, you'll get a bonus for that fight for putting on such a good show. And like, you've had a few of those yourself, haven't you?
I've had a few. I was the all-time leader for a little while. I think maybe Cowboy might have me by like one or two now, a couple, but I was a leader for a long time. So basically every show the UFC has Fight of the Night, which is the winner and the loser of the Fight of the Night get an award. And then it used to be Submission of the Night, Knockout of the Night, but they changed it to Performance of the Night now, so it's a little bit more flexible. There were definitely cards in the past where like I knew there was a really good knockout, so I would make sure I submitted someone, or vice versa. If there's a really good submission, I'd make sure I try to knock them out to try and get the award. And it worked out more often than not.
That's funny. So you actually go into you're not necessarily thinking bonus. Well, maybe I guess you kind of are thinking bonus a little bit, but do you like go into a fight? I mean, is it mostly you're trying to play to your game plan and you just be you, or do you actually have to really know the opponent and like, this guy's weak here, I can attack here? Is it more about you, or is it more about studying the opponent?
It's both for sure. I mean, like we do like a coaches meeting as soon as we get the fight. We all talk about it, the coaches, if we like the fight or not. Once we accept the fight, though, we do like a coaches meeting and we start drilling down very specific things that we need to kind of capitalize on. So it's called like a SWOT board. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we basically figure out what we can do well, what we have to be concerned about, and then we try to amplify our advantages and then take away their advantages. And in the course of, and basically that's how the game plan develops. Okay, we're going to work on this. We're going to work on this. We're going to work on this, because sometimes you have like this overarching kind of game plan on things, but a lot of times it's more like the positional game plans. Okay, if we get on the fence, we got to be concerned with this. If we're on the ground, we got to be concerned with this. So like there's a kind of like an overall big picture game plan, but a lot of it comes down to like kind of like those smaller situational kind of things. And we take the situations we think are going to most likely to occur, and we drill them like crazy. That's kind of how we go about things. So it's like, there's definitely a good part of it is like what I'm good at, but a lot of it is like based on whatever they're going to do. Like I'm going to fight very differently based on who I'm fighting.
The one thing I've said to many people is when you, especially people that don't know much about the UFC, is like my dad always talks about how big boxing was back when he was a kid. And for my generation, it's not as big. Like people, I don't even know who the top few boxers are. I do know a whole bunch of UFC fighters now. I feel like UFC is kind of bumped up a lot and almost taken the shine from boxing a little bit. And I wonder, like when you guys think about it, for me, it's like the presentation of the whole thing. Like what I love about the UFC, boxing gets boring for me a lot. I don't know if it's the Floyd Mayweather thing. I respect the athleticism. I know there's a million things going on that just inside boxing that I won't know. But for the UFC, you watch that. It's quick. It could be over in 10 seconds. It could go 3-5 rounds, but at any moment that thing could end, and there's just a lot of action. Somebody could dominate a fight, but with one punch or whatever, it could be over from the guy that's down. I wonder, what do you think makes the UFC so appealing for boxing?
So boxing, they always say, boxing is like the sweet science, right? You generally can pick who's going to win a fight, right? Because they're kind of limited in what they're allowed to do, right? With MMA, you never know what to expect. Because if you and I fight and you have the better stand-up, but I have the better wrestling, I could still knock you out because I go to shoot a takedown and you bring your hands down nice and low to defend the takedown, and then I clip you with a punch. It's like, it's very unpredictable. There's the game plan and strategy is like so much more prevalent than it is in boxing. Boxing, you go out there and hit someone. Like there's not as much kind of overall strategy. There's definitely little things and situations you try to, force a little bit, but everything you can do in boxing strategy-wise, you can do that in MMA too. And then there's all the wrestling and takedowns and everything else. It's a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more exciting. I think that one thing that really hurts boxing is that, so Floyd Mayweather is like one of the best boxers, right? He's maybe the best boxer. He's very defensive though, right? So his particular style is not fun to watch. If Floyd Mayweather was going out there more like a Manny Pacquiao and he was knocking people out left and right and just smashing people, a lot more people would want to watch, but they don't because he's more defensive, So it's like, or like a lot of times you have like heavyweight boxers, right? Sometimes you get guys that can really crack, but a lot of times you get guys that like, they just put out a jab and for 12 rounds, they just kind of jab people and they're not really trying to put people away. So I think that kind of hurts boxing a little bit too, because there's so like, it's hard to go and put on ESPN top ESPN top 12, there's maybe a couple boxing matches people care about, and usually it's not super exciting highlights. Whereas MMA, every single card, every single fight, you have a couple really, really good highlights, and things that people could know nothing about fighting, nothing about boxing, but they see someone get kneed in the face and blood everywhere and everything else. Like it's exciting. The people can understand it right away. Whereas boxing sometimes is like the nuances are kind of lost on a lot of people.
Again, joined here by Joe Lauzon, talking some UFC. One thing that I love about it, and I think a lot of people do, and maybe you can give me the insight on this and how this is like a real deal, but you can have one of those brutal fights where it's vicious for the whole time you're out there. It goes the distance, and but at the end, there's this like almost every time. I've seen a couple instances where it's gone the wrong way, but almost every time at the end, there was this massive amount of respect shown between the two fighters at the end. Where does that come from? How do you stand in a cage for that long, just go at somebody for that long, and then at the end say, unbelievable, you're fantastic, I really enjoyed that?
So you have to be pretty humble with what we do, because like for jiu-jitsu, for example, right, you get tapped out all the time. You have to tap out, it's like, okay, you win this go, okay, let's go again. That happens countless times every single day. So like if you're a sore loser, you don't get good, right? You just don't get good, because if you're a sore loser, then you're not going to keep going to the gym. You're not going to get better. You're not going to progress. I think that sometimes like with boxers, like it's a little different, because boxers go out there and they smash people. And if you get smashed, you're probably not that conscious and you're all knocked out or whatever. But for jiu-jitsu, it's like, you could lose a fight and like, you're completely aware, you know exactly what's going on. Like, oh yeah, you caught me, you got my arm, you got my neck, whatever. So I think it's a little bit, it's more like a friendly atmosphere. Like, so like you walk into a boxing gym, it's not necessarily going to be the most friendly atmosphere, but you walk into like a jiu-jitsu gym, it is like everyone's like fist bumping, high fiving, saying what's up. Everyone's, their family, what they do for work, what they're having, like, everything, what they're working on. It's just such a more of like a tight community feeling where everyone's trying to like kind of lift each other up. Whereas in boxing, it's like, all right, who am I going to beat up next? Okay, I'm going to get that guy. You come over here. Like, I'm going to beat you up. It's just a different thing. So I think that's why, jiu-jitsu is such like a big part of mixed martial arts and UFC and things like that. I think it's just a much, much better tight-knit community kind of feeling. And it translates to the fighters, because if they got that, if they did that well, they spent a lot of time in the gym and they've kind of been, influenced by that.
And there must be a level of just being a competitor anyway, where you just have respect for this person's putting it all on the line like I am. The damage that could be done to each other, and you respect that about that opponent.
100%. And there are going to be times when, two guys just don't like each other. It's like I fought tons of guys. I've badly hurt guys that I really liked. I've been hurt and I've been kicked and all this other stuff by guys that like me. So it's the way it goes. It's not personal. It's just like we're competing and, this is how it goes. There's been people I fought that I didn't like that much, but it's pretty rare.
And probably at the end of the day, you probably end the fight the same ways by the fist pump and showing the respect at the end, whether you like them or not, right?
Yep. I try to always make sure, go up and, whoever I fought, win or lose, I always go up and shake their hand. Even if I don't like them that much, I go up and I shake their hand, because it's just, I think it's just important to, show respect and be like, oh, great job, yeah, it's important.
All right, let's do a little bit of. I always attend the show with some rapid fire. Let's stay with that theme for a little bit. Who's the guy that's been really kind of and answer it if you can. If you can pass if you want. But who's kind of the guy you really wanted to beat? He was kind of not. You weren't the biggest fan of. Personalities clashed. Whatever. What's the fight? The guy that you just you took it personal. You really wanted to get.
There was a guy, Gabe Rudiger. I fought in Boston, the TD Garden, and I was on the Ultimate Fighter with him. He basically got cut from the UFC. Talk trash about my brother. I had an opponent that pulled out, so like I asked the UFC to bring him back, so they brought him back and I beat him up. So I don't like him though, but we're okay now. But at the time, I really didn't like him.
Don't talk bad about your brother.
No.
Another fighter, right? He's you guys kind of have some family genes here.
Yep. So my brother Danny's the youngest UFC fighter ever. Had 3 fights in UFC. Didn't do great, but very, very good fighter. Very good fighter.
What is that like fighting in Boston? That's your hometown deal, Boston Garden. I mean, you must still get chills by that a little bit, right?
It's awesome. It's so good. It's like deafening. Like it's, I think each time I fought, I sold like 600 tickets. Like it's just, it was awesome. It was great. It's great to fight at home. It's great to sleep in your own bed the night after. Like after the fight, going home and sleep in your own bed is really nice. It's great. It's the fans in Boston are great.
Yeah, do you find yourself like looking up at the rafters and you're like, my goodness, I mean, this place.
So I try to never look up before the fight. Like until the fight happens, like when I'm walking down, I'm like looking at the ground. I'm not looking up and around. I'm not, whatever. I'm focused on, the task at hand. I can't get all caught up in everything else. But after the fight, yeah, it's like, oh my God, like there's so many people here. It's awesome.
Hopefully after a victory, right?
Yep.
What is the all right, so there you go. We got the guy you don't like. Who's the fighter that you've most respected, maybe you've learned the most from? Who's like the one you've really looked up to?
So BJ Penn was my coach on The Ultimate Fighter. So I didn't fight BJ, but he was my coach on The Ultimate Fighter. Learned a ton from him. When I quit my job, the first thing I did was I moved out to Hawaii. I quit my job because I was moving out to Hawaii to train with BJ. And he's just, phenomenal fighter. Very, very good. One of the best, one of the GOATs for sure.
If you're going to be in this business, Hawaii seems like a pretty nice place to train.
Not bad. There were spots.
Very good. All right. Best fight you ever fought. What's the, maybe not technically, but as far as like just you asked things of yourself that you couldn't have imagined.
I think that when I fought Jamie Varner was a really good fight because I got 2 bonuses. I got performance of the night, submission of the night at the time, and I got fight of the night. It was back and forth. I really liked the fight because it was a hard fight. I finished him in like the 3rd round. But it was back and forth. And then, and of course I got the finish in the end. And it was, we did a couple of things during the fight that I worked on really, really hard during camp. We talked game plan, like we game planned for it and then we executed it perfectly. So that was a nice fight.
All right. What's the one that you kind of came back on that like you were down and out? Certainly the underdog going into whatever round, you maybe you had to try to pull some magic out. You got to go for it and kind of leave it all out there. Maybe get a submission or whatever. Has there been a fight like that for you?
That was kind of the Jamie Varner fight. Like it wasn't necessarily going perfect. Like, it was a close fight for the first, second round. But I don't even know how the judges were. But it was a close back and forth fight. But then we pulled it out in the end.
How about the one where you're just the one you'll never remember because you were just left feeling sore afterwards? Like, what's the most beat up you've ever got in the cage?
So hypothetically, I supposedly fought in Japan at some point. I kind of remember a trip out to Japan. I kind of remember being in Japan. I mean, I may or may not have been kicked in the face and the neck, like in about a minute by Anthony Pettis. It may or may not have happened. I don't know, but. I remember like walking out for the fight. I remember raising my hand, and then I remember being in the back room and then like pulling my gloves off.
Oh my goodness! Who's that? You can say hello. Tell him.
Go here. Come say hi.
Dad.
Yes.
I see these holes.
Yeah. We're doing Legos right before this all. What is this?
It's the Joker car.
It's the Joker's
We're
car.
still working on it.
We're still working on
Still
it.
working on it. Looks good, man. Who are you?
I'm Joey.
Hey, Joey. How are you?
Good.
Your dad's pretty impressive.
Say thanks.
Thanks.
There you go. Joe Lauzon does it all over there. Very
Does
good.
it all.
So
That makes it.
Perfect. I love it. I love how it opens.
fantastic. So you don't remember what happened after that.
No. I mean, I remember like I do remember like little bits and pieces of it, but I don't remember all that clearly. Like I remember like I remember like I do remember the fight up until the kick. But the fight was short. It was only 40 seconds long. He came out. Normally he's a righty, but he came out as a southpaw. So he came out in an opposite stance, which was completely against all the game plan stuff we worked on. Like we didn't think he would do that at all. And then he comes out and like I heard my coach say, "Keep your hand up." And then all of a sudden it's like I feel like I was like I always explain it as like I'm like standing beside a pool and someone tackles me in the pool and like you don't like you're in the water. You're like looking like what is going on? Like that's kind of like what it was like when I got kicked in the neck. And then, and I just remember being in the back room and then like pulling my gloves off me. I'm like, ugh. I just like realized exactly what happened. I'm like, this didn't go well, did it? Like, no, it did not. It did not go well.
Oh my goodness. That is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Well, most of them go better than that. But
that was probably the worst. Yeah.
As I see your son there, can you talk a little bit? I'm sure family life has to be, you really have to rely on family members that are, I'm sure to be a wife and a kid of a UFC fighter, it's you ask a lot of them too, don't you? To don't worry about dad, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I demand a lot of myself, but we demand a lot of everyone else around me too. Whether it's we get a lot of help from my family. Like my mother-in-law is awesome, my mom's great, my dad's great. My brothers are awesome. Everyone kind of helps out at different times. Whether it's babysitting or doing this or doing that. Obviously like the seeing me get beat up on television is not what I'm aiming for, but they all see me work super hard, and they all see me, put my effort in. And like, if they weren't confident in my ability to prepare, then they wouldn't want me doing it. Like there was I won my last fight, which is at the Garden. And I beat the kid up, they stopped the fight in the first round, TKO'd him. But going into that fight, there was a lot of speculation, like if I was already retired or what was going to go on. And, but like everyone was 100% supportive on, doing it again and making another shot at it. Cause, they just see it's like, it's a hard sport. It's anytime someone fights, like, you take 20 fighters, 10 are going home losers. It doesn't matter how hard they all train. It's not that you had 10 guys that trained properly and 10 didn't. It's not. It's like every single guy there trained properly, right? Maybe 1 or 2 didn't. But almost every single guy trained really properly and did to the best of their ability, but they're still going home a loser. It doesn't matter. It's like half the guard has to lose. So it's a really difficult sport. It really is. Like it's not like, oh, I got 3rd place out of 20. I'm doing well. It's like, no, you win or you didn't. So it's hard, but they're supportive. I have an awesome support network, awesome coaches, awesome training partners all the way around.
Do you let the kids watch? Does Joey's still fairly young. Does he get it?
He doesn't quite get it. So he just turned 7. He doesn't quite get it. Like he's like he remembers all the time. Like, like, remember that time I was on TV, like talking about himself. Cause it would, they, whatever. Yeah. He kind of gets it, but doesn't really get it. I think when he trains jiu-jitsu, like we teach kids at my gym. So he's been training since he was like 3 or 4. So he's been training for a few years now. So he understands like the jiu-jitsu part of it, but he doesn't really understand like what, the fighting aspect of it and like what it is that I do.
And, jiu-jitsu obviously has become it's a huge part of your life, obviously a massive part. What besides the fighting, take the cage out of it, what does it do for you personally, mentally?
So it kind of pushed me outside my comfort zone, right? So I am a super introvert. Like I can do an interview like this, like no problem. But like, if it was like, go up and talk to someone random, like, it's just not like what I would do. Like I could do it, but it's just not like, I'm not like a chatterbox. I'm not trying to go and start up conversation with people generally. Like I stay in my lane. I focus on my stuff. I don't get, preoccupied by everyone else's stuff. I'm just, it's made me way better about doing interviews and just dealing with people and just, that kind of stuff. Like my mom tells a story of how like when I was like 13 or something, and she told me like I was gonna be one to order like Domino's pizza, and like so I called Domino's, I go order the pizza, I'm like, I'm supposed to get like 2 large pizzas, like super easy, right? How difficult can that be? And they're like hey, a deep dish or regular? I'm like, and I just hung up the phone. Like I didn't want to like, so like it definitely helped me dealing with people.
That is interesting. Very cool. A couple names I want to throw at you. You can't talk UFC here in just our final minute. You can't talk UFC without talking about a guy who's coming back just in a week or so. Conor McGregor. What's your interactions with him been like? What's your take on McGregor?
I haven't had too many interactions. So I was around him a little bit when he fought. He actually fought Max Holloway, who's fighting Calvin Kattar later, in Boston. And I was around him a little bit for that. And at the time, I think it was like his 2nd fight in the UFC, and they were talking back then about he's going to be the next big thing and all sort of stuff. And I'm like looking at him, like I just don't see it. Like he's kind of like, I just didn't see it at the time. I just wasn't like super impressed. But obviously he did great. He's crushed it. And then he has that fight, and during the fight, he ended up beating Max by decision. And he took him down, out-grappled him, did a great job, but he tore his ACL in the fight. And he still just came back and he still won the fight, like with a torn ACL. It's like, and then I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I totally understand. Yeah. But Conor's, it's worked out perfectly for him, right? Like I don't think that necessarily like having the same attitude that he has, would have worked if things didn't align just right for him. But because he did that, because he doubled down on everything else and he was super confident, it's definitely, he 100% made his own way and he's done a great job.
Yeah, I get the impression you would be more kind of a less listen to me showman. You're not going to be out there doing the whole spiel that he does, but you're let my fighting do the work, right?
Yeah. But I love listening to him talk. It's like he says like simple things, but like it's just like it's like his word choice is just interesting, and the way he kind of says things, the way he words his sentences, like he's very interesting. Like I bet he spends a lot of time kind of thinking about how he talks about things and things like that. Maybe it's just because he's Irish, I don't know, but. But no. He's one of those guys, like I could listen to any interview he gives and I'm thoroughly entertained from start to finish.
I have said the same thing about him. He's smart. He's like calculated. You can tell like certain things he says. I agree. I picked up on words and it's interesting. Like he's clearly smart and he's a good thinker. I can tell that too. He's not just some guy yelling off the cuff all the time.
And there's definitely times when like if you do an interview, you generally know like a lot of the questions they're going to ask you, right? Because you get asked the same questions. Like, like I knew you were going to ask me about Calvin. I knew you were going to ask, about certain things. You're talking about a fight. Okay, what's interesting about this opponent? What do you think this is going to go? Like, you generally know how those are going to come at you, and those you can kind of prepare for a little bit. You kind of have like an idea of like how you want to answer it, how you want to go about it. But sometimes it's like the completely random questions. He still knocks it out of the park with his answers.
Yeah. Do you like him in the on this return back to the whenever this fight is coming up? Do you like him in this fight, or have you looked at it at all?
Yeah. So he's fighting Dustin Poirier. I think it's in 2 weeks. I do like. I think it's I think Poirier is very, very good. Like he's got great skill set. But Conor's got a crazy left hand, and Poirier's got very good boxing, so that's not going to be shocking. But Conor just does things that people don't expect. Conor's last fight was against Cowboy, and he smashed him with like his shoulder. Basically, got into a clinch and like smashed him, and like basically pretty much knocked out Cowboy with shoulder strikes. Which like usually a shoulder strike is kind of like an annoying kind of strike. It's not like one that does a lot of damage. But he game planned for it. He worked on it, and he took something that's like usually not a big threat, and he made it into like a major weapon. And to me, like that's impressive, right? Because he took something that, again, is generally it's very, very small, made it into something much bigger. And he also like, what else has he been working on all this time? Because that happened like right off the beginning of the fight, and he smashed Cowboy with it and everything else. Like, what else did he have planned for Cowboy? I don't think that was the one thing. I don't think he expected like, oh, I'm going to win the fight with this. I think it's, he probably had several things he worked on, and they'll probably work to great effect. And then he's been training all this time, hasn't fought in a while, been training all this time, ready to go, and now he's got all these different tools and things he can kind of unleash and bring out. And I think with Poirier, I think a little bit more on like what to expect. I think with Conor, it's a little bit harder to predict what he's going to do.
Too early to pick a winner, or you like Conor?
I think I like Conor. I mean, I'm a huge Dustin Poirier fan. Like I think he's awesome, but I think Conor's just going to be too much.
Interesting. And the final name I'm going to ask you about is we mentioned him a little bit about the beginning and the branding of this whole thing. Dana White, just your take on Dana.
It's the GOAT. Dana's the best. He's from Boston, which obviously is nice, but super smart about what he does. Definitely an abrasive personality, kind of polarizing. Some people love him, some people hate him. He's always been great to me. He's been awesome. I don't know if it's a Boston connection or what, but he's always been great to me. I'm a big Dana White fan. I try to see things through not just my perspective, but everyone else's perspective. And I understand like there's been a lot of, issues with like when there was the Reebok deal and sponsor deals and UFC things and this and that. And I can understand from the fighter perspective on how things can be a little frustrating at times. But I also understand from like the promoter end of it and the company end of it, or like how it has to you got to find like that balance a little bit. But I'm a huge Dana White fan.
Interesting. Is he mostly respected by UFC fighters, you think, or what's the general consensus within you actual fighters?
It's going to sound weird, but I would say that the really top, like maybe 1% of fighters don't get along with Dana as much as like the other 99%. I think overall the fighters generally like Dana. I think that once you get to like the very, very tippity top, it's like everyone wants more. Like you always want more. So you try to push back for more. And Dana is like, he generally pretty, I think, accommodating up until that point, but then he pushes back a lot harder when it comes to that point because you're talking much bigger numbers, things like that. But I think overall, I think Dana is very well liked.
All right. Very cool. How about you? What are we talking about? Are you focusing most of your time towards the gym now? Is this going to be the path forward? What are we looking like as in the next few years for you?
I don't really know. There was talk that, maybe the last fight in boxing would be my last fight. And if it didn't go well, it would have been my last fight, but it went really, really well. So I'm not closing the door yet. I definitely have no interest in fighting right now with all the COVID stuff going on. Right. So it's like, if I am going to fight again, it's going to be, a couple times max. So I'm I'm not looking to do an entire training camp and then have the fight get pulled because someone in the other camp gets COVID or someone in my camp tests positive or whatever. There's too many variables there. So I'm just going to stay focused on my gym for right now. But I'm training all the time. Like we're getting off this. I'm going to go to my gym and train, we'll see what happens. Like I'm not closing the door. I got tested by USADA like 2 days ago. So like I'm still in the testing pool. I'm still good to go. So we'll see. It's one of those things where if I say that I'm retiring, then they're going to pull me out of the USADA pool, and then I definitely have to be done because you'd have to be back in the pool for like 6 months or a year or something like that to get back in. So it's easier to just stay in and just deal with it, and we'll see what happens. But, maybe we'll do 1 or 2 more fights. Maybe we're done. We'll see what happens. If they call me with a name that I like the sound of, I'm 100%. I will do it.
You're at a point in your life where you can kind of control your destiny a little bit.
Yep. I don't have to fight. I don't have to go and do it. Like obviously I really enjoyed being in camp. I really enjoy getting better. I really enjoy the actual fight. But at the same time, there's always that chance that you do get beat up again. Like I don't want to have another, replay of Japan where you kicked in the neck. So, but if they came with the right opponent, I would do it. But if they don't come with an opponent that I like, I wouldn't. Like they couldn't call me with a name like, oh, I don't want to fight that guy, and they feel like I have to. I'm like, okay, no, I'm good. Thank you. See you later.
Absolutely. No, I hear. And tell people too, I mean, obviously the gym, people don't realize how much these fighters that are still fighting right now are going through. I mean, the isolation, the quarantining, the testing. I mean, I just thought of that as you were saying that. There's a whole lot to this.
It's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new ball game. So like the way the short version of what's going on is they send us a testing kit before we even leave. You have to have a negative test on that. Then you fly out there. They put you in quarantine. They test you again. You have a couple days until the fight. You get tested, right after weigh-ins. You get tested like 4 or 5 times. And it's hard because like you're very limited with training partners. Like for Calvin Cato. So I haven't seen Calvin much in like the last year or so. For Calvin, had to get ready. He basically set up like his own little like private gym. He rented a space. He runs a show, Combat Zone. So he has his own cage already. So he brought his cage from running his events to this space. He basically set up his own gym and only let in people that he trusted he could train with. And you got to keep your circle really small because if you start getting a little bit too big, someone's going to test positive for COVID. It could cancel the entire fight. Someone has sniffles and your fight's gone. You're not making $200,000, which is a big deal. So it's hard. You got to be. It's this whole new, like little bump that could come down the road that can really derail everything.
Safe to say you root for a guy like Calvin, kind of a friend on a night.
Always, yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I haven't seen Calvin. I didn't help him prepare for this fight, but of course I'm always pulling for Calvin, Rob Font, all the local guys, 100%. I'm always pulling for them.
Lastly, let's just tell people your big upcoming UFC fighter. You want to get in the game a little bit. I know you say don't just jump into the game, but maybe they want to come to your gym. What does a place like yours offer?
So we have classes and everything. So it's a little different right now with COVID. So basically we have everyone do 2 classes a week for grappling, which is like, so you're in basically a group of 10 and you can do, whatever you want within that group of 10. And then we do kickboxing class, which are like social distance, like it's on bags, it's all spread out. We do that too. So, but our website is Lauzon, it's LAUZON MMA.com. We just moved from Easton to Rainham, Mass. We're right on 44. But we had tons of people, and not everyone that's there is trying to become a UFC fighter. Like it's a very, very small percentage. Most of it's like moms and dads and kids. We start kids at 3 years old. So like I teach the 3-year-olds because my son's in that group, 3 to 7. So it's awesome. It's a good atmosphere. It's a good environment. Especially with all the COVID stuff, you gotta get healthy. Gotta stay in shape.
And I was usually end these interviews by asking. I was usually going to ask you what would be your best advice for the young UFC fighter, but instead I'm going to ask you what would be your best advice for somebody who maybe wants to get into jiu-jitsu. I think because that's kind of the interesting one for me.
I think the biggest thing is, you got to show up. You can't have any ego because you're going to lose every single day. Like if you're not losing, like I have guys that are like not like pretty new. They like, I will put myself in bad positions and they will tap me out. I will have to tap. I will have to give up to them, right? Because I put myself in bad spots and I let them work and I let them get, and I see like how deep I can let them get something and then escape. You know what? Sometimes I get too deep and then I can't escape. It's the way it goes. And I think that, when people first sign up, when they're thinking about doing it, they think, oh, I don't want to lose. Like you're going to lose. You're going to lose thousands and thousands and thousands of times. It's going to happen. That's how you get better. You don't get better unless you're going against people that can beat you and that you lose to. So, but the biggest thing is just come and just do it. You got to just go and do it. Like you'll be so happy. It's a community unlike anything else you've ever done. It's different. Like I've done other sports. I've done other things. It's just not the same. It's really not. Like it's very, 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 very personal and like very much like people want to see you do well just as much as they want to do better. So it's awesome.
I lied. One last question. Tap it out. When people, guys, I see people like, it looks like the fight's over. Some of them come back, but usually they eventually tap out. But people like guys and women, we should mention, women are a huge part of this sport as well. I don't mean to keep saying guys, but when people submit, is that just pain overtaking you? I mean, I've seen people just not submit and lose consciousness, which is just crazy to me. Like a normal person is like, that's insane. What is that like when you're about to tap out or like what to get to that point?
So it depends, right? So there's different things. Sometimes it's like a panic tap. It's like it's something hurts and you instantly tap out and you let it go, right? Sometimes it's like you feel something pop or get broken, right? It could be like a broken arm. It could be a lot of times it's more tendons, right? It's like your elbow goes or your shoulder or your knee or something like that. There's like a pop in your knee or something like that. And like, that there's damage. With chokes, it kind of goes both ways. A lot of times chokes, it's not just going to put you unconscious. It hurts at the same time. right? So people are tapping to both. It could be, it's cranking your neck. It's like, it's a choke, but really it's attacking your entire neck and it's causing damage to like your spine. So it's like, a lot of times you see taps to those, you see taps to that. When Conor McGregor fought Khabib, it was a choke, but it was like across like his jaw. It would have broken his jaw if he didn't tap, right? So that's why he tapped, because he felt like his jaw was going to break. Getting choked unconscious is actually probably the nicest way to lose. Like I've gone to when I first started dating my wife, I let one of her best friends like choke me unconscious at like a bonfire, right? And like I had a bunch of my other training partners that were there, and this is not something I typically do. It was whatever.
Saturday night at the Lauzon.
Pretty much, yeah. My buddy Bob's, and so like my friends were all there, and I was sitting in a chair, and they were there. They were kind of telling her when to start and stop, but I let her put me in a choke, and she put me out, and it really doesn't hurt. Like it sounds weird, but it doesn't hurt. Like your vision starts like closing out. And you're like, oh, wait a second. All of a sudden it's gone, and you're unconscious, and the next thing you know, you're waking up. Like for me, I wake up like thinking of like Nintendo games or something. I start hearing like little Nintendo songs in my head, and I wake up and I'm like, huh? And I know exactly what happened because it's happened a few times. I've been there enough. But a lot of times people are like really confused, like what happened? But it doesn't hurt. A choke generally doesn't hurt. You just like, you feel like your vision starts closing out, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. Everything goes black. Man, and then you're waking up.
That is fascinating, as was this whole conversation. Joe Lauzon, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I know you got a couple kids running around, and you're a busy man. I appreciate you taking the time. This was very sweet of you, and thanks. I learned a lot. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. Be safe out there, and I hope the family and everybody's doing well through COVID.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bub. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
All right. Great interview. This is great when you bring it back. We're not done yet. Joe tells me before we left, he has a storyline that he needs to share. Go.
Okay, so I'm not trying to tell people not to take it serious, but like my entire family got COVID. So basically, somehow my 3-year-old got it, and no idea how he got it. He sees no one except for us, but he got it. He basically had like a little bit of a fever for a couple of days. Hold on, but
It's done.
it's done. Okay, sweet.
Want to see it?
The Legos are done.
We're done with the Legos. But my 3-year-old got it. Like he saw no one but us. We had 2 babysitters. They'd help out. One of them didn't get it at all, and she's tested like every week for work, so she definitely didn't get it. The other babysitter got it after when we all got it, but my 3-year-old got it, then my wife got it, and I got it, and then my son Joey got it like a couple days later, and we all had like a super mild reaction. Like I had like basically sniffles and like restless legs for like 1 day. My wife was achy and a slight fever for like 2 days. Kids are both 100% fine. So like that's like one of the other frustrating parts of the entire thing, because I know like not everyone has the experience we have, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but we had like a very, very mild exposure and experience, and we all have positive tests and all that, but multiple positive tests. Yeah. But like it's a little frustrating, like when they all these different businesses and going out of business and everything like that, over what amounted to sniffles for us. I know we're not typical. I know it's very serious to some people, but yeah, it's a little interesting.
Young dad, you're an athlete in the prime of your career. You're a young man, young dad. That must be kind of scary with the kids, though. I mean, this guy's. I can imagine. I'm not a parent myself, but you must have had a few moments where you're like, kind of a bit of an unknown. Let's see how this plays out.
I was never. I mean, I was never concerned about my health or my kids' health at any point from the beginning. Like I understand, like there's exceptions, right? But like same thing, getting in a car. Like I don't get super worried every time I get in a car that we get in a car accident. There's people die every single day. Hold on. So like I wasn't super concerned about that part of it. Like to me, the worry was always, okay, like I don't want to go to the gym and get something and then give it to like my mom or my dad or my mother-in-law or someone like that. That was always the concern. But I was never worried about us at all. Like it went just like I thought it would. We had pretty much nothing. A couple sniffles, a little bit of body ache for a day or two, and then good to go.
Joey, how you feeling?
Good.
I like that car. Show it to the computer. Bring it up a little bit.
It's the Joker vehicle, and when the wheels go, it does this.
Bring it to, there you go, right there. Oh, there you go.
Let me see. I'll show. So when the wheels turn, the mouth opens.
And it's that's the coolest part. Like
that is the coolest part.
Chomping.
Yep. It's chomping.
Eating.
I like it.
Hey Joey, what's the best thing your dad's taught you over the years?
What's the best thing I've taught you over the years?
Tiny ninjas.
Tiny ninjas. Jiu-jitsu.
And Dad, guess what? Want me to teach you how it goes?
Yes. Let's do it after, though. Let's do it in a couple minutes.
I'm going to let you guys go ahead and do that. Boys, it was great to see you. Joe Lauzon, thank you so much. Joey, thanks for the appearance.
You're welcome.
Well, you're welcome.
Have a good one, guys. It was great talking with you.
All right, you too.
All right, how about that? Very cool. Joe Lauzon, very sweet guy, very nice, and nice of him to take that time with little Joey running around too. Nice appearance by him. That was fun. UFC, I've been fascinated by it. I know a lot of, especially like a lot of the younger adults, you know, like my cousins that are younger, they're all really into it. And it seems to be just this huge building sport. And I got into it through the pandemic, really. And I just find it fascinating, just the combat of it, the respect shown after these fights, how much these guys are putting on the line, these guys and women are putting on the line every night. And for me, just the action of it, first boxing, is kind of fascinating. And there's a lot to learn. I hope you found a lot of that interesting, because I sure did. Joe Lauzon, thank you so much. Local guy, talked a lot about fighting in the Boston Garden. Pretty cool. That'll do it. Good show, everybody. Thanks, and thanks again to Joe. Live at Drew's house, another edition. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.